Joining me right now is North Dakota Senator and member of the Armed Services and Budget Committees, Kevin Cramer. Sir, good to have you. Thanks very much for joining us this morning.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Do you think we need a fourth stimulus or relief package?
Well, I think we do need some sort of a package after all of this, whether it's directly tied to coronavirus or not. What we really need is to get on with business as usual. I think the speaker's right that infrastructure would be a good place to start, because that's something that is the responsibility of the federal government to begin with. We have a very good highway bill that's passed out of the Environment and Public Works Committee 27-0, so we've got a good start on that. So in terms of the recovery, I think there might be some things that we need to do. What I don't want to do is get out ahead of our skis and start making massive policy changes that reflect, political extremes. Let's stay about the business of running our country.
Well, the president wanted to buy more oil for the strategic fund. I've got to ask you about oil, given your state,
Yes.
North Dakota, is a big producer. Oil coming off of an 18-year low. President Trump apparently spoke with Russian President Vladimir Putin yesterday, and they agreed to work together to combat the energy industry crisis. And this seriously is a crisis. Can you assess this for us? How bad are things now with oil prices at $21.52?
Well, they're very bad, Maria. I mean, the day that Vladimir Putin and MBS, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, decided to oversupply an already oversupplied glut, frankly, at the same time as we're seeing this incredible drop in demand globally, oil was $42 a barrel, which is not a high price. In fact, it's kind of below what we need it to be to have the stabilizing supply, demand, and prices that I think the globe needs. And so now it's $20 less than that, well below the cost of producing it in the United States. And you might recall that even during the Obama more tepid recovery, economic recovery, all of the job numbers that were net gains could be attributed to the oil and gas industry and the revolution of the shale plays. So we need to have a balance. Everybody likes cheap gasoline and cheap jet fuel, but it doesn't do much good if you have an economy that doesn't provide the opportunity for going anywhere. So it's a big problem, and I'm very encouraged that the president's reaching out.
Yeah, he's reaching out, but the Congress stopped him, right? Nancy Pelosi said no to buying more strategic oil for the strategic fund, and that was ultimately not put in that relief bill. Let me ask you, you just mentioned, I mean, the shale companies are counting on a certain price. What price were they modeling their business at? And how many shale companies do you expect to go bankrupt, not being able to come out of this? Because obviously Russia wants to put these companies out of business. That's why they created this price war in the middle of a pandemic in the United States.
Well, you're right about what Russia's doing, and there's no disguising it. I think that, we have two leaders who are at odds with each other, but they're killing each other, quite honestly. In the process, they're really demonstrating their desire to take over again global supply. What a shale producer needs, it depends on where they are and how big they are. You talked about how many will go bankrupt. Certainly smaller ones are probably going to. And more importantly, that begins in the supply chain and the value chain. They get squeezed first, which are the smaller companies. And then you're left with just the producer, and many of those probably certainly won't make it at these prices. At $42, they were already being squeezed pretty tight in the Bakken and North Dakota.
Right.
We're a little more landlocked than other places, but I like to see oil, frankly, around $60 a barrel or a little better. That provides a nice, even price for the consumer, and it provides enough of a price to continue the revolution.
Senator, thank you. Thanks very much for your insights this morning. This is an important topic, and we certainly will stay on it. The price of oil this morning up 7% right now.
Last night about it.
Did you? And what did he say?
Well, he was encouraged. I was encouraged by his discussion with Vladimir Putin and the fact that he's reached out to MBS. I think we need to have some tough diplomacy. I told him that I can't tolerate having 2,500 troops in Saudi Arabia and a whole bunch of missile defense batteries protecting Saudi Arabia's oil assets. Well, they basically declared war on my oil assets here in North Dakota and in the country. So I'm encouraged that he's very engaged now and wants to see a more balanced approach to it all.
Well, good for you, because I know as those companies go bankrupt because they can't handle this low price, so goes the jobs. And I know the president understands that quite clearly. Senator, we'll be watching your efforts. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.